Hello and welcome back, and today I want to do a hardware review of the brand new QNAP TS-251D. So this is the new 2-bay from QNAP. This is part of their new generation of NASs for 2020, but it's more than that. They've really talked about their software throughout 2019, and QNAP, like a lot of other brands, didn't really release much home NAS hardware in 2019. A lot of the 2s and 4-bay users out there kind of were left bereft. There wasn't a lot of stuff for us out there, with a number of you noticing quite palatedly that when you saw it, there was a lot of business rack mount. There was a lot of enterprise dual controller, Intel Silver and madness stuff. But when it came down to it, you wanted a new 2-bay, a new 4-bay, maybe even a new value 8-bay. And none of that really came to pass. And that's why this NAS is very important. It's part of the new series from QNAP, entering into their latest range of NAS devices for home and SMB users. Now, this device, the 251D, is the follow-up to the 251B, which in turn was kind of the follow-up to the 251 Plus. It's been a series of NASs from QNAP that was never designed to hit the tippity top. It wasn't. It was never designed to aggressively take on the top quad-core user market, the power 2 and 4-bay user. It's been designed in the middle. It's designed for users that want all the features and functionality of NAS, and they want all of the port performance from day one, but don't want to break the bank. This one arrives at around 260 to 270 quid without VAT, so depending on where you are in the world, and if you include local tax in your own economies, you're looking at about 310, 320 to buy this outright. On top of that, it doesn't arrive with hard drive media inside, but you can populate it with a couple of 4 TBs, nice and simple. And that means fully populated, you're probably going to be spending somewhere about 500 to 600 quid all in on this NAS. And that's what makes it affordable. I know that seems like a lot of money, it's over £500. But once you look at the power NASs, they commit you to £1,500, £2,000 fully populated in some of the top tier stuff. And that's why this is designed at the middle. It's going for those middle users in mind. So in today's hardware review, we want to talk about this device and the hardware predominantly, although we will touch on the software at times. And I do recommend you check out the unboxing that I've done on Span TV for more information about the software, as well as the overviews coming soon. But what we're going to look at more than anything today is the hardware. We want to show you guys what exactly this arrives with and why it's probably worth your data. That said, it's not perfect. There's a few niggly things that I don't like about it, which are purely personal taste that I will go on about throughout the course of the video. Now, I've already unboxed it, but just to make it nice and simple, there's the retail box it comes in. The accessories you get are a 65 watt PSU, an external mains cable, an RJ45 cable, a single LAN cable there, screws for SSD and hard drive installation, and warranty and first time instructions. So, fairly standard stuff. But what about the device itself? Well, the NAS itself utilising the same chassis as its predecessor, the 251B, although it's got this metallic blue strip as opposed to the predecessor's silver strip there. It's the same chassis, same plastic outer with metal internals that's designed to be affordable, discreet, and low noise. And it ticks all of those boxes, I think. If it's anywhere close to the 251D especially. Don't get me wrong, if you use more enterprise level hard drives, they are going to generate more noise. And by enterprise hard drives, I mean like your Pro series drives, and your Seagate Exos's, and your Gold series, and basically your data center class drives. That said, with this, I am going to be doing some software testing later this week, and I am going to be utilising Seagate Ironwolf NAS drives. And don't get me wrong, what I'm about to say is a plug, but it's still true. So, 50-50. But the reason I use them is, one, because the Pro Series drives do arrive with data recovery services bundled in. So that's 5 years of warranty and a couple of years of data recovery. This itself is a standard drive. It arrives with 3 years of warranty anyway. And on top of that, it also arrives with Seagate's own health management tool that's supported by all the NAS brands, that allows you to do far more comprehensive and detailed checks of the health of your drives inside the NAS while they're operating than on anything else like your standard smart tests and stuff like that. So I do recommend you check that out. But the chassis itself being plastic isn't as much of a put-off as I would have once thought. That does dampen a lot of the noise. The trays are plastic as well, which I'm less keen on, but I know is pretty much a standard now in the world of NAS. And on top of that, the device is full of ventilation. There's ventilation on the side panel here in a vent. There's ventilation on there. There's ventilation on the rear with the active fan. On the base, there's more ventilation pulling air over the drives, and even more ventilation there going over where the memory and the other parts live. We will be opening this up as well to take a look inside later in the video. Now, the CPU inside is the J4005. It's a dual-core processor from Intel. It's got embedded graphics, so it's got things like transcoding taken care of, as well as the graphical manipulation that you might want to take advantage of in things like surveillance and file editing. I'll talk about a little bit more later in the video. That CPU, that dual-core, it's a 2.0 GHz processor that can be burst up to 2.7, so a nice high clock speed there when you need it. The memory that arrives with is DDR4 as opposed to the DDR3L in its predecessor, and that memory arrives in either 2 or 4 gig by default, but you can upgrade officially up to 8 gig of DDR4 memory with, I believe, being unofficially using crucial memory there, you can unofficially upgrade this device to 16 gig. I will be doing a test on that later this week as well. Pretty much my whole week is dedicated to this NAS, to be honest, so I am looking forward to putting it through its paces in a number of ways. Let me know in the comments if you've got any requests. But the CPU and memory inside this device are already a decent jump from its predecessor, and I will be doing a comparison video, don't get me wrong, but just to touch on that, its predecessor had a J3355 Celeron, so a previous generation CPU, and it arrived with DDR3L memory, so a lower frequency. So, more efficient, more powerful CPU, and more modern for applications, along with better embedded graphics and faster, higher frequency memory. So, to be honest, win-win-win-win-win compared to its predecessor. But what else has it got going for it in the hardware stakes? Well, if we look at the rear, we can take a look at those ports. Now, if we bring that closer to the front, we can see that we have got a PCIe slot. That's a big deal. The ability to upgrade this device later down the line with improved network interface cards, SSD caching, and more is something of a lot of interest. Let me elaborate. So you want to add 2.5 gigabit, 5 GBE, or 10 GBE connectivity to this NAS, but you want a NAS that's going to have those things down the line, but you just don't want them now. This allows that to happen because all you need to do is install the card. I believe the 1-port 10 GBE card from QNAP, their own QNA card, is a joke. It's like 85 quid or something silly. It's really easy to upgrade. Comes with a bunch of warranty and cables and all the accessories you need. But on top of that, you can upgrade to multiple 10 GBE ports and multiple 2.5 and 5 GBE ports. There's even, in the QM2 card series, combination 10 GBE and M2 SSD cache bays, so NVMe, which is great, built into those cards. So you can install one card that will improve your internal and external performance with one card, and this supports that card. But on top of that, you can use that internal SSD for raw storage. If you're a photo video editor and you want to connect directly to the NAS to edit videos and raw photos, it is possible. You just put that 10 GBE card in there, have a 10 GBE port or a Thunderbolt to 10 GB adapter on your PC or Mac system, and boom, you're now editing on the NAS, with the added benefit that the device can be connected to a standard network at the same time, allowing connected users over the network and the internet to use the device exactly at the same time and access your files. Sorry, bit under the weather. So, the PCIe slot is a big deal, and it's PCIe Gen 2 times 4, which is better than its predecessor at times 2, so a much more efficient, fast connection, a better revision in fact. We've got an HDMI port here, and this HDMI port is HDMI 2.0A, and that port means 60 frames per second 4K. Mwah! Beautiful. So whether you're going to want to enjoy your 4K media in its truest form, directly zero latency from the device by connecting a monitor or TV directly to this device via HDMI, this will work for you. If you're going to run a surveillance setup where you've got multiple cameras on a control deck, utilizing QVR Pro included in this device, that I'll talk about the software a bit in a bit, you can use a 4K monitor to get even better resolution on multiple cameras on a single screen at once. And ultimately, when it comes to HDMI, it's one of the reasons why this device is going to be so damn popular, because HDMI-enabled NAS is not something that QNAP are kind of the only ones that do. There's several brands out there that do it, Asus Door to name but one, but no one does it better than QNAP. HD Station is by far the best user interface I've ever utilized via an HDMI system. So once you connect a monitor to this, you've then got the user interface of HD Station. You just install the app straight away from the inside of the software once, and it's there forever. Within that application, you can install multiple apps, both via the web browser remotely, or just with a remote control, accessing the QNAP, flicking through, install that app, watch that. These applications are incredibly deep. So these aren't just web portal rip-offs where you're really just looking at a tab on a web page. They are full applications you would expect on the likes of iOS and Android. Now, you can control the media on your TV with this NAS with everything from an infrared remote control directly connecting to this device. You can utilize USB keyboard and mice. You can connect Bluetooth USB dongles with remote controls or keyboards, or you can use the QNAP's own Q Remote app for iOS and Android completely for free to control the device with your phone while it's connected to your TV. You can flick between your surveillance setup to look at all the cameras in your home or office. You can flick to your Plex media server and enjoy your media there. You can flick to just watching photos and media, or connect a keyboard and a mouse and access one of your virtual machines. That's right, this device supports VMs, it supports Linux VMs and containers. You can create complete virtual environments within this device that can be accessed locally with a USB keyboard, mouse and monitor, or remotely anywhere in the world, or just over the network, however you want your security credentials to be set up. It is a very, very good device, and the HDMI port, it really is the cherry on the cake for me. I talk about the surveillance application. The surveillance applications on this are Surveillance Station and QVR Pro. There are 4 licenses included for 4 IP cameras on Surveillance Station and 8 camera licenses on QVR Pro. You can even use a simple USB camera, connect it to one of those ports, and add that camera as one of your supported surveillance cameras. It's really that straightforward, and you can use IP cameras or even your mobile phone as a camera if you so choose, all of which saving to the machine, accessible via any of the connected devices that you've given permission to. And again, simultaneously, you can do all the other stuff too. You can be transcoding on your Plex media server while browsing your photos, and I'll talk to that in a little bit. You can be streaming your music over iTunes and at the same time backing up a bunch of devices. And that CPU, although it's not an incredible CPU, it's still powerful enough to let you do a number of those things at once. Just remember to have enough memory for all your different applications and users. Now, I touched on photos there for a little while. Let's talk about photos. Let's talk about Photo Station, QMAGI, and Multimedia Console. Photo Station is their application for allowing you to create playlists and catalogs and portfolios of photos all within your NAS to be browsed on mobile devices or shared with friends and family. You can create bespoke albums, slideshows. You can even access metadata tagged within photos to see what devices took those photos, as well as some of the geolocational data to use and see in a map view. But to go one further, you can use QMAGI, which is an AI-powered cataloging tool. So you've got 10-15 years of photos, you can just upload them to the NAS in the folders that you want. Then the NAS will scan those photos and then will create a database for you of all the people within those photos. Remember, it's not going to read the file names, it's going to look at the photos. It'll look at the photos and then present you lots of faces. It will combine the same person in multiple albums and then go, who is this person? You name them Ted. And that from that point, if you lock it in and tag them as Ted, just like Facebook, you can then, if you need to search for a photo of Ted in future, type the word Ted, boom, there's your photos of Ted. But the more people you tag, the more people you can search in conjunction with one another. So say you want to search for Ted and Bill and Tracy, just type their names. It will present you every photo that has those 3 people. It's very, very cool. And that can be for new photos and old photos too, with a mobile application just to keep that moving as well. Now, the last app there of those 3 was Multimedia Console. And although I'm talking about it in photos, it actually applies to a great many different apps. Multimedia Console gives you the ability to create a bespoke multimedia environment to be enjoyed over DLNA and remotely. You can control which files and folders are being indexed and which files and folders are being utterly ignored. You can set it up so that you put the data on the NAS the way you want to in the folders that you want to, and then you can tell Multimedia Console, search there for that, search there for that, search there for that. It's that straightforward. You only have to do it once, and it will do it itself from then on forward. And it's incredibly intuitive and user-friendly, and I don't know why other NAS brands don't have something like this. It seems so obvious, so cool, but yet QNAP are the only ones that have got it. Now, moving away from software, because let's face it, for a hardware review, I've really banged on about software for about 4 or 5 minutes there. Let's talk about this device a little bit more. Now, let's talk about the things that I'm a little underwhelmed by. Let's talk about the things that I looked at it and went, oh, and that is the Lan ports and the USB. I've already touched on this in the NAS Compare article in the other video, but I do think it's worth touching on it here. Firstly, the Lan port. I know I've already mentioned that you can upgrade the network interface from 1 GBE to adding 2.5, 5 GBE and 10 GBE ports, which is great, but the fact it arrives by default with a single 1 GBE port is a little underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, it is still an affordable NAS and it's designed to be at a great price point, and changing stuff like that would increase the price, but not by much. And I think given how much QNAP is investing in these greater than gigabit network connections, the fact this device arrives with 1 GBE as standard is a little underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, you're going to be able to use it nonetheless, and if you don't plan on upgrading immediately to these network connections anytime soon, you're not going to miss out, and you can still add them later anyway. But for me, that was one of the first things I saw, and I went, oh. Other thing is USB 2. The device has got 2 USB 3 ports, one on the front, one on the back, and 3 USB 2 ports. Now, in 2020, I didn't think USB 2 would still be around, to be honest. I thought it would have been long gone with FireWire and USB 1, but apparently not. And I understand the reasoning that QNAP took there, because you know, the USB 3 ports you would use for external storage, because they're one of the few devices that can take advantage of the transmission speed and the power delivery of USB 3. And therefore, if you're going to use peripherals here, like web cameras, like keyboards and mice, like I've mentioned a bunch of times already, you're not going to waste USB 3 on that. But at the same time, given that this is a 2-bay and you're going to expand down the line, you're probably going to use QNAP's own expansion devices, the TR002 and the TR004, both of which use USB 3 or USB 3.1 Gen 2, if you're in the case of the 2-bay. The idea that there's only 2 expansion ports, one on the front, one on the back, was a little disheartening. And I understand why they did it. It makes sense. It keeps things affordable. And most people are going to use those ports for peripherals, not storage. But still, nonetheless, a little underwhelming. But apart from that, I really, really like this device. I even like that they've kept the speaker on the rear there. I was worried they wouldn't keep the speaker. Because I've noticed they've got rid of the audio out ports, which is a little sad. But I do like the inclusion of that rear speaker, because I like the fact there's audio notifications on NASes that tell you when there's a problem, when it's set up, and more. Let's take a look inside this device, shall we? If we open this bad boy up, we can take a look what's inside. Now, I've already kind of skirted around the subject of the trays inside this. This device, this 2-bay, can be deployed with a single hard drive if you so choose. You don't need to put 2 drives inside it. And those drives go in the front, utilising, let's slide that front panel off. It's magnetic and locks on the side, and take a look at those trays. The trays inside are plastic in design. They're screw holes for 2.5-inch and 3.5-inch drives, but 3.5-inch drives can be installed very easily indeed. You just put the tray there, you take the clip, you pop it on the side, one clip either side, and boom, the drive's in the tray. It's fine, it's not going anywhere. You can then take that drive and install it straight in there. Right there. Would help if I put it in the correct way, wouldn't it? Right there. I'm not trying to club in the other tray that I didn't see was there. So again, nice and easy, nice and straightforward. We've got our USB copy button there on the front. We've got our LEDs for denoting system access, system health and network activity and drive activity, and a power button there at the top. Memory components are in the side that I'll show you in just a moment. But all in all, I think it's time we remove the top of this chassis. So, if we take a look inside there, and I might remove those drives actually, because then we can take a better look inside this device. We can see first and foremost that L shape there. That is the 2 memory components. Once again, this supports up to 2 DDR4 SODIMM memory modules, officially up to 8 gigs, so 2 4 gigs either side. On the rear, we've got that fan that can be set to automatic or manual, depending on how you want to utilize it. And more enterprise level hard drives will produce more noise and more heat. So the system will be able to behave and lower and heighten its RPM as needed on its own, but you can do it yourself if you like. Even the LEDs you can dim to nothing or brighten if you so choose from the QTS software platform. Inside, we've got that J-series CPU just underneath that panel with a giant heatsink, no fans inside. And at the top, we've got that PCIe, let's get a better light on that one. We've got that PCIe Gen 2 ×4 slot here that allows us to upgrade those cards more and more. Now again, look, there's almost nothing to it. There's loads of airflow within this device, and it does allow a huge amount of expandability with that PCIe slot and the inclusion of memory upgrades, as well as adding expansions later on. It is a very, very good NAS that I've slowly dismantled here on the desk. But for me personally, as an entry point into 2020, when it comes to 2 bays, I do think this is a fantastic entry, and I'm excited to see what exactly Synology and QNAP themselves are going to bring to the table after this one. Because in terms of affordable 2-bay right now, even before I've done the comparisons with the 218 Plus and the 251B, this is probably my favourite 2-bay right now, just before the silent NAS, the HS453DX. But that said, this has been a hardware review of the TS-251D from QNAP. We'll be running numerous software tests on this very shortly, and I hope you stay tuned for those. But click like if you've enjoyed this video, click subscribe if you want to learn more. Go to the NAS Compare article in the description for far more information, photos and more about this NAS, and do visit the guys at span.com if you are looking to buy one of these bad boys, because they're probably the best price out there, notwithstanding having 25 years in the biz, building test services. They're the NAS experts, and I'm sorry for the other plug, but I'm not lying, they're good. So I'll see you on the next video.